Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver.
I'm Chuck Moore.
And this is a quite appropriate little quarantine session that we have here.
Yes,
because
indeed.
we are talking about the movie Dawn of the Dead from 1978. And to help us talk about that, we have with us Blake Brown and Amber Brown. Amber, making your second appearance. Welcome back. Blake, welcome.
Amber.
Thank you.
So this was something that for a long time, Blake, I've been looking at my shelf, and it's like, ooh, Dawn of the Dead sitting over there. I want Blake to come on and talk with us about that. So we got you here finally.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, so like I said, this is one of our quarantine sessions. We are recording this over Skype. So if there are any weirdness with audio, it's because Skype is weird. And we've already experienced how weird it can be getting this all put up and started here for you. So, I guess I'm going to start off by saying this is my favorite horror movie. There are better movies. Like you can say that The Shining is better on a technical level.
Or The Exorcist.
The Exorcist is scarier.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Halloween is, Halloween is Halloween. It's like that started a whole subgenre. So, but Dawn of the Dead has always been my favorite horror movie. So I wanted to talk about this for a long, long time. But Jason.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Want me to just give you all my thoughts?
Start reading your notes.
Right now, I'm more curious. I'm more curious to get Blake's perspective. Blake, you really love this movie. Is this your favorite movie ever made?
No. I would say
you have to think about it.
I would say teenage years. Yes, it would have been.
Yeah.
This is the movie that made me love horror.
Okay.
I'd seen scary movies before this, but when I was about 13 or 14, my friend gave me the double VHS tape box set of this.
Oh, yeah.
And, I used to fantasize as a teenager being locked in a mall to fight off the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, now would I fight it do a zombie apocalypse? Absolutely not. I can't even. This pandemic is bad enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should lock ourselves in a mall in Monroeville.
I mean, it's obviously the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we could. I mean, we could go and take the Greenwood Park Mall right now. It's ours.
Yeah.
We don't even need the guns. We can just walk in.
Yeah.
We'll live off Applebee's mozzarella sticks for the rest of our lives.
I would wager.
Annie's pretzels. That's all I'm saying.
I would wager a guess that Blake, your experience was a pretty common one among today's horror fans.
Yeah.
It was a movie that they discovered when they were a kid, and it really gave them that love of like the gory special effects, the fantasy of the mall, right? That's definitely what attracted me to it as a kid, and it's still the elements that make me love it are those two things. Absolutely. That's and I think too that the mall fantasy, wow, that's sort of outdated to some degree now, right? It's still kind of like, yeah, I mean, where else would you want to hole up during a zombie apocalypse? A place that has supplies everywhere, it's got, we just watched Chopping Mall what was that, last week, and that's kind of got a similar vibe too, where it's like you want everything you need is there, especially this mall in frickin' Monroeville. It's got like a beautiful gourmet grocery store and a
convenient gun store.
The gun store. That's just normal in a mall.
Well, once upon a time, though, I think it was.
I think it was.
I'm pretty sure that's just not a normal store.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, like, at this point,
Dippin' Dots and clothes, that's what you'd have to do.
Yeah, that's what you get. Starbucks.
I would get a studded belt from the Hot Topic to fight
Wrap it around your hand.
Wrap it around your hand and punch zombies. Well, I could get a new pair of leather pants. I mean, that probably would help me from getting bit on the leg.
You need a new pair of leather pants.
Protection is key, man.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's put it. My old pair was a size 32 waist. That I definitely need a new pair.
I also wonder how many special effects careers this movie launched.
Right.
Not just by the people like Tom Savini who were doing the effects, but by the people who watched this movie and said, "That's what I want to do with my life. I want
right
to
here.
do that." Yeah.
Yeah, this kid looked into going to Tom
Yeah.
Savini's School of Special Effects. Yeah. Bit pricey, so we didn't end up doing that.
It
But
is. I've heard
That
that.
is-
Yes.
It's in Pennsylvania.
it's in Pennsylvania
so,
as well, so we would have had to move. But either way, looked into it and based solely on George Romero's movies, I think. So, yeah.
So yeah, and that's the other thing, because like I kind of, I was kind of joking about it before we started recording, how like, it's like the element of like how George Romero works, just kind of, hey, do we have enough to put the movie together?
Right.
It's kind of how I treat editing these episodes of, it's like, do we have enough to release an episode? Yes. Okay. But that's one of the things I like the most about this movie, just from a filmmaking perspective, is that it feels a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's not a typical narrative in this. Like there's the barest of plots, but that's, it's like, I don't feel like that this is, like, it doesn't feel like it's overly scripted.
There's not even really there's not even really an arc, really, of characters. It's really just kind of like, hey, this is what happened in 3 months during this insane zombie apocalypse, right? But it just works. It moves forward relentlessly, especially that first 80 minutes. Oh my God. And I like the fact that it doesn't fuck around with just dropping you into the middle of the chaos, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that very first scene is so effective. I think it still really freaks me out.
Well, and it's so timely now. Like, when I was watching it today, I mean, we had scheduled this, like mid-February to do this before quarantine was a thing. And, like, just the dialogue, like, we have to operate on what we know and blah, 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 and use logic and what, and I'm like, just like getting hit in the face with like the timeliness of like what we're going through now and how it kind of fits.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of was of a weirdo beardo guy in Michigan screaming at a cop.
Right.
That's the first thing I thought of. It's like,
the entire movie, I was like fitting characters with like people of now. Like everybody, I was like associating it with like, oh, you're the crazy people protesting in Michigan, and you're the, I could find a place for everyone, and that really scared me, honestly.
Yeah.
I actually watched something a little bit earlier today on YouTube. It was a video that the channel Consequence of Sound published about how...
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Did you freeze there? I think you might have frozen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat
I'm
that?
sorry.
Repeat that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. So I was watching this video from Consequence of Sound on YouTube earlier today, and they were talking about how that opening scene is not just the scariest scene of this movie, but one of the scariest scenes in horror, because it really shows like what happens when the systems break down and how people react to it when they're left to their own opinion and fear, and and then you've got people working at the TV studio, like screaming at the scientists because they don't like what the scientist is saying.
Not one moment of gore or anything like that to make it. Yeah.
It was terrifying nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes like at least 10 minutes before the SWAT guys open up the room where they blow off a guy's head. Which even then, that guy's not a zombie.
And we still have
definitely had a placement for that one. I will tell you that. That one was obvious. Who that
To go along with that first scene, you have all of the different players in the breakdown of society. You've got You've got the capitalist, the owner of station, who's like, people will tune out if we don't show the stations, where the safety stations. You have
even though they're out of date.
Even though they're out of date.
He just cares about the ratings.
Right.
Keep people on our station.
Then you have the people who work there who feel they have a moral obligation to do the right thing and to give correct information. And then you have people who are just resigned. They're like, this isn't our responsibility anymore. Emergency broadcasting is taking over. We're out. So it's just interesting to see the script, I think, is strongest in that moment, and it really sets up the whole movie with this train that just doesn't stop for over an hour. Just excellent setup.
Yeah. Well, okay. So real quick, I want to back up real quick because I know, Chuck, you had made some comments last night.
Did I?
While you were watching. Well, a few. Okay. I was just wanting to get your overall impression. When's the last time you'd seen this movie?
It's been years. I think I've said this before on the show, but I don't watch movies over and over again, like many movies. So when I see them, it's rare that I go back a lot. But I remembered a lot of this movie, actually, from the last time I saw it, and I was the beginning was very effective. Almost all the movie was very effective. I think one of the things that took me out of the movie was the music at times, where I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Why are we like, but overall I liked it. Mostly it was the approach with the music and scenes and stuff that threw me off at times.
I have to second that. The stock library music that Romero uses to kind of keep things off balance and comical really just doesn't work for me. I much prefer the use of all of the Goblin stuff in the Argento cut. Even though a lot of those cues get really repetitive in the European Argento cut, it still keeps, I think, a better appropriate, which I prefer with this movie. It doesn't mean you can't still have comedy, and there are still comedy elements in that cut, but they're not quite as pronounced, and most of that is due to the different use of music.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
out of it a lot. Yeah. Like it just took me kind of.
It's so goofy. And it was all deliberate. There were choices that Romero made because he wanted to give those scenes that tone. So take that for what it is. It achieves what the director wanted, but I don't necessarily think it's what I wanted.
I think it would have been.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, I thought, okay, it's maybe just because I'm so music based. I focus on soundtracks a lot, and so I was maybe I'm noticing something that other people aren't, but obviously not. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because I had complained about it Chapter 2 for doing something similar with the song recently.
Yeah.
Totally took me out of the movie. It was a very similar feeling, but I think if they had kept it,
that was it. That was the only thing.
Yeah, that was the only thing. But I think if they had kept tension and then all of a sudden the zombies are falling all over themselves on an escalator, I would have laughed harder. Yeah. I didn't need the cue to tell me this is supposed to be funny, but
right. You would have Yeah, I agree for sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna stand against that. I understand that. I get the people. I think that Romero was being satirical, but was being more on the nose about it because people are going and expecting a zombie movie. It's like the people who complain that Walking Dead doesn't have enough zombies. He was. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you the goofy music to make sure you understand that I'm poking fun here a little bit at this. But there are some things where it's a little bit lighter, where I think it actually does work. Like after Roger gets bit, and he kind of devolves into a child. And it's like, okay, this is kind of, it's like, it's lighter, but it's like we're seeing somebody basically being unmade. And I think that works there. But I understand it with the music, but I'm on board, man. I'm on board with it. Give me the goofy cartoon music and watching people fall down escalators. I'm on board.
Right.
I think there's something to be said about the way the climate of horror has changed and shifted, right? You hear of Dawn of the Dead. You know, if someone had never seen Dawn of the Dead, maybe who loves horror, and they finally see it, I think that they might be confused in some ways about why it's such a classic, right? Because I think of the tone, because the tone of horror has changed. And you do have shows like The Walking Dead and all, you know, like just, I mean, a huge proliferation of zombie type material. And generally speaking, it tries to give you the gore, but also give you the dread. So I guess in a way, you know, revisiting Dawn of the Dead is a little bit refreshing in that sense, because it isn't necessarily taking itself as seriously as some of these newer properties are that were obviously still inspired by it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think you can make that stuff work too, like shows like Scream Queens. Like that first season was tremendously hilarious and funny and dumb, but still scary at times.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it can still work that way.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, this movie is about like I was kind of saying, it's like you've got a movie that's not overly written. It's just basically these four people. You've got Francine, who is basically the person we follow the most probably in this movie, because we start with her. She works for the news station. She's the one who's trying to be somewhat of a voice of, we can't, you know, we have to do the right thing. We need to be telling people to go to the right places or whatever.
The first shot of her, the pullback shot of her to start the movie, it's my second favorite shot in the movie.
Yeah.
I will talk about my favorite shot a little later, but it's
Is it the third person?
For sure.
Your favorite shot's the third person who gets hit in the face with a pie, right?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
By the way, I was very disappointed to realize that Argento did not cut out the pie fight. It's like, damn it. Can we have a pie fight free cut of this film, please?
I was glad I'd forgotten about it, because that part. Yeah.
I love it.
Bikers you've ever seen.
Ridiculous. I'm like, they're not clowns. They're fucking bikers. Like, what the?
But the bikers were acting like clowns, though.
I know, but like that's not how bikers would. I don't know. Maybe I've watched too much Sons of Anarchy.
You just don't know any Western Pennsylvania bikers.
I guess
like
not.
I do.
Maybe I'm just not cultured enough.
First of all, who baked those pies?
Right, and why are they wasting food? That was another thing I was worried about. I'm like, you guys are scavengers. Why are you fucking wasting food and throwing it in zombies' faces? Like, okay, whatever.
It was only cream pies, and obviously Peter baked those pies.
Yeah, why hadn't Peter eaten all those pies by then? I don't get it.
Where were the pies before? We didn't see any pies.
And what's weirder is that I think Argento cuts the reaction of Ken Foray, where he is just kind of like, he's sort of amused by them throwing the pies in the zombie faces. I can't remember, but in one of the cuts that reaction shot is removed. And honestly, that's the shot that makes that scene tolerable. Is Ken Foray is like, these guys are just idiots.
Yeah.
Bunch of suckers.
He like rolls his eyes at them. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, because he baked he put love into those pies. Because we know he made it.
One who made them, yeah.
Yeah, because he made dinner for Flyboy and Francine. But
anyway, though, sorry for that digression, Geoff. You were saying.
I don't remember what I was.
Okay.
Oh wait, hey, no. Oh, I remember what I was saying. Basically, yeah. I mean, it starts with Francine, Flyboy, who I guess he just flies the helicopter for the traffic and the weather report, right?
Yeah, he's the weather guy. Yeah.
So he comes in. It's like, hey, we got to get out of here. You know, somebody's got to survive. I got this buddy, Roger, who then we cut to Roger. We see he's part of he's like a part of a SWAT team, but he's also like Army, like
military.
he's like,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Can you?
He's in the midget squad, bro.
Can somebody explain what's going on in this scene? Why are they there?
I can, but Geoff can too. Go ahead.
So they're clearing out this projects because they are not following the martial law to go to the safe space.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The whole opening they're talking about, no matter how safe your home is.
I'm kind of like, oh, they're putting him up in a swanky hotel, and I'm like, this is not a swanky hotel. This is like
yeah, Wooly is a monster.
Okay, yeah, because I was like,
Lover
what the hell are you looking at?
Yes.
Like, this is a shithole.
Right.
Okay.
No, he's just looking for any excuse to shoot brown people.
That guy is essential to this movie, though, because he is one of the few instances in the movie with that Romero is trying to say humans are fucking deplorable people.
Yeah, they're worse than zombies.
They're worse than zombies.
Right.
Yep.
It's like this humanity totally takes a play, and it was bad. Yeah.
So they're clearing out the place because the whole front of the movie, the scientist is saying, I don't care nobody cares how safe you think your home is. You have to go to one of the quarantine
designated. Yeah.
God. So they're clearing that place out because nobody in that building was leaving, and also the main Puerto Rican guy that Wooly is really after is like Rodriguez, whatever his name is. He was like he would like stored up guns or something too. Like there's something going on specifically with him too. And they're like, hey, we're going to arrest this guy, but move everybody to wherever they're supposed to go. And they go in, and Wooly just starts killing everything.
Blowing the heads off people. Oh, man.
He wasn't even a zombie. Again.
Savini loves a good head explosion effect. Loves it. Yep.
But then that also gets Peter and Roger together because they're part of separate squads.
Yeah.
Right.
And Peter kills Wooly when Wooly is about to like just massacre a family or something.
Yeah, and Roger's trying to stop him. He keeps jumping on his back.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't break his cigarettes that were in his front pocket. I was like, how are his cigarettes not broken? That's the kind of things I think about.
Also, is Ken Foray smoking the same inch of that little cigarello the entire movie?
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Well, also, there's the guy when Roger and Peter then go to meet Fran and Flyboy, which is Steven. There's that one cop that's like, hey, anybody got any cigarettes? Got any cigarettes? Got any cigarettes? No, we don't have any cigarettes. They take off and they all light up a cigarette.
Yeah. Peter has a really funny look in that scene too, and he's like,
but it's in that projects though is probably my favorite scene when Peter and Roger meet. And they're in the basement, or they're not in the basement, but the one-legged priest comes in who is just using he just has it tucked up. It's
like attached to his body.
He walks so perfectly smoothly with one leg. I had to kind of I watched it again when I put the Argento cut on just to get some flavor, right? And I was like, I got to see this. Does he really only have one leg? Because he's so perfect with that crutch. It was amazing.
Yeah. So, and they're in there and, they're talking about like, hey, you were part of Wooly's squad or whatever. He's like, hey, I didn't see anything. I didn't see how he died.
I didn't see him shoot him.
Right. Because also Ken Foray is like twice the size the guy who plays Roger.
He's a monster of a man. He is big.
So the preacher comes in and he's talking about like, I gave somebody last rites, and he says one of my favorite lines: "You do what you will. You are stronger than us, but soon I think they will be stronger than you."
Yeah.
And that's one of those like awesome like little he's talking about other things, not just zombies and shit. But then he also follows that up with when the dead walk, seniors, we must stop the killing or lose the war.
Right.
And that's more about the zombies. But the first part though, that's some I said that belongs on a fucking statue someplace.
There is the 13-year-old boy. There is the two things in this scene. Obviously, that is kind of like my jaw hit the ground the first time I saw it, and it's the head explosion, and it's the cage of zombies.
Oh yeah,
eating the human bodies. Oh my God, it's still so effectively disgusting.
Yeah.
And the bites. There's the two bites of the woman.
Oh
yeah. And
I still don't think there's been a better zombie bite in the history of zombie films. I just don't. So good.
Yeah, because that stuff is those are really gross. Those are super. Yeah, that taking the chunk out of the shoulder. That's.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember seeing that the first time. I was like, ugh.
Oh, so gross.
Yeah, because then Peter goes into that storage room of zombies and just guns them all down.
Yeah.
Like a badass. He's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
It's like when the zombie apocalypse comes, I'm calling up Ken Foray, and it's like, I'm hanging out with you. I don't care if you're really that guy or not. I'm going to hang out with him.
Is he? Okay. I didn't know if he was still alive.
Oh yeah. He's the only one who did more than 3 movies of the 4 main actors.
He kind of looks like Lawrence Fishburne.
It's been like 40 years, so I didn't know if he was actually still alive.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah. So then, so basically after they meet up, they're just kind of flying wherever they need to go. They got to stop and get some gas, which of course is just for another action piece where we get to see some kids get gunned down.
God, yeah.
Savini's niece and nephew.
Oh,
interesting.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It was funny. It was almost that scene where Ken Foray's in there and the kids run out. When he's throwing him on the couch, it's almost like a father and son, like playtime.
Yeah, it's like,
you know what I mean? It's like this guy is like with his kids right now. It's kind of funny that way, and then he has to murder them. But
Because he's shooting at like head range, he doesn't realize kids,
little kids.
So he's shooting up here. They run out completely unscathed.
Time out.
Yeah.
Time out. Yeah.
My favorite moment in that scene is when Ken Foray goes to the coffee machine and sees that it's out of order, and he hits it, and then it makes him a cup of coffee, and it's like, oh shit, his luck has turned, right?
Yep.
He's
like a full
exactly.
in all of this madness, like he gets this stroke of luck, and he sits down to enjoy his cup of coffee, and then he has to kill 2 zombie kids.
2 kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Love that scene.
Oh God.
Now my favorite scene, or one of my favorite scenes, probably not the favorite scene of the movie, but one of the things I like is when they're flying over, it was like someplace actually called like Jonestown, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah.
And
the redneck scene?
The rednecks were like, they're just all hanging out, like smiling and laughing and like, drinking beers. They're
and like very appropriate and timely. Like I totally saw that as like I
have a weird fact.
It's realistic. Yeah.
I have a weird fact. There's the great line delivered by I believe it was Stephen, where these rednecks are probably enjoying all of this, right?
Yeah.
That's that great line, and then you obviously get the montage of I think it's the Pennsylvania National Guard that's out there, and Romero just kind of threw a party for a bunch of rednecks in the National Guard to get these shots, but weirdly Argento cuts that line in his cut, so it sort of just doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore without the framing of that delivery. It's like, there's a bunch of good old boys. The rednecks are enjoying this. This is another subset of the American culture that is thriving on this chaos. This is something that they have thought probably their entire lives that there is their purpose. Right?
They're preparing.
Right. There are people like that today, who even in what we're experiencing now, are just like they're thriving on this because the worst fears that they prepared for have come true, and they're seen as kind of like they've been what's the word?
Preppers.
Oh yeah, but the preppers. But yeah, they've been
they're a little justified.
They've been justified, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I just thought it was cool that it showed the scale of this thing. Like
Yeah.
all movies before it is all like one house, one killer or whatever. But this is like showing how this is affecting the whole world.
Yeah, because the scene
it did it really effectively.
Yeah, because the scene starts, it's like, oh my God, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
It's because I think that's actually really good. Like that also has like some commentary to it too, because like we live in the city, of course we see things. Like if you live like right next to a city or in a city, we see a lot more of the effect of something. Whereas, we think somebody who's like just Farmer Joe out in the middle of nowhere in Indiana is probably not affected. Well, they probably are.
Well,
it's just we don't know it. We don't think of it.
It's pretty appropriate now too with COVID and everything. Is like everyone's like, okay, well, we can open certain parts of the country because there's not a lot of people there that are dealing with this. But in reality, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We just don't know it yet. But
yeah. So basically, this just leads them after they get gas, and has my favorite zombie kill of the movie at the gas station.
Oh, yes!
With the guy who walks into the helicopter.
A haircut there.
Jason just crashed, but he'll be back.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so yeah, then you have. Then they basically find the mall, and they say, what's that? Oh, it's one of those indoor shopping center places. It's like,
that was kind of weird.
That's quaint.
Yeah,
it's like 40 years later. It's like, oh, I know. Well, actually, Chuck, Amber, Blake, your kids won't know what a mall is.
No, and that we're seeing that too with like and don't judge. I'm not going to say my kids' ages, but we're watching Stranger Things. With the kids covering the eyes on the important parts or whatever, but like they don't really know what a mall is.
Yeah.
And so this is really like it's something we can definitely associate with, but like when they're old enough that we'll allow them to watch Dawn of the Dead, I don't think they're going to grasp what that is, like how that was such a big thing at the time. Mall was like life.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like a place bigger than Walmart.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Target and
right.
That's it. Really.
Yeah. But so they decide this like, hey, let's see what supplies are there. And then I think probably the smartest thing that anybody could do in a movie, and they just decide, hey, let's just stay here. It's like if you leave, you're going to always have to need gas. You're always going to have to need supplies.
Right.
But if you just hang out here, the only thing they couldn't account for was hiding the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that was their downfall.
But I always enjoyed the little details Romero put in about staying in the mall. They thought about building a false wall.
Yes.
Which I always found to be like, that's genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a little detail, but it's like, wow.
So smart. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought.
I love that, and it turns out to be really important to what zombies remember and how much of their humanity they have.
Right.
Circles back.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about this movie that is really fascinating too, is that it's really good at paying off things. Like they say when they get to the mall, why are the people just kind of hanging out? It's like, oh, well, it's just something that they remember doing. It's just something that's part of them. And then later you see exactly how much certain zombies remember certain things. And then also you have, well, I guess I'll probably save it, but there's something that goes along with the original ending of the movie that was supposed to be paid, or like was something they set up earlier and then was supposed to be paid off at the end, but then they changed the ending while they were filming. But yeah, so I mean, like, this is the part where like most everybody remembers this movie for the sequence that comes after that, as they're kind of checking out the mall, and then they realize, oh, well, we need to fortify it, make sure no more get in, and then we go hunting and basically wipe out all the ones on the inside. Now, question, why did you put the zombies in the freezer with all that food?
Yeah,
I know.
Susan said the same damn thing. Yeah,
that's what I said. Like, move all the food to one freezer and put the zombies in another. Like,
or chuck them off the roof.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That would have been another plan. Like, just get them out. Like, why would you contaminate all? Like, then you don't want to go in there to get food and like.
Well, the scientists did say on the TV report that you could resort to eating the zombies, though. That was yeah.
Oh, that is true. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, because that's a good point.
I just thought it made sense to just move everything to one freezer and then put the dead bodies in the other one. Like, why are you using 2 freezers full of food and stocking them full of zombies? Like, just logic. Just logic.
Yeah. Well, the one thing also that you could, like, the other thing that I always liked was, like, you know, they go and they clear out the bank, and then later they're playing poker, and they're, like, actually betting with the money that they took.
Right.
You know,
I
it's
love
like
the bank heist scene.
They're like, you know, posing at with the money and everything.
Picture with the camera. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I found kind of interesting, and I don't know if this was done on purpose or by accident, but okay, so they're in the gun shop, right? Like it's Stephen and Peter, and they're like getting the guns, and they're like, you know, they're getting ready to go on the hunt or whatever, and they're playing African safari and like African drums and stuff, and it's very focused on Peter, almost as if it's like, hey, it's reversed now. It's like he's better.
Show.
Yeah.
But again, that took me out of it a little bit. Like, I did notice that, and I feel like you weren't supposed to notice that. I don't know. I don't know. And so then I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. Like, I get that it was like his moment to shine. Like, this is his thing. He's going to take care of it. But at the same time, I was like, this seems weird.
Yeah, he did say something about the only shame is that the people who could afford those guns wouldn't really know how to.
Yeah, the rich assholes that didn't know how to shoot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So I don't know. I found that interesting, but I think that might have been white people suck, I think. Whitey sucks.
So I could be focusing too much, but like the music took me out of it too much, and I do want to preface that I just focus on that a lot, and that's my fault. But it kind of that was.
I'm a big tone person too, but this was one this movie gets a pass.
Okay.
Whereas Chapter 2 does not get a pass.
I mean, I wasn't even alive yet, so whatever, it's fine.
Well, you know, when I saw this movie when I was 1 year old, I was like, "This is a great film. This will live forever."
Yeah, it's timeless, and it is in some ways timeless. I completely agree with that. But the soundtrack threw me a few times. I won't lie.
My favorite character in this movie is Dr. Millard Rausch.
The iPad man. Yes, I love that guy.
I love this guy, and I was like, I got. Who is this guy? Because he kind of reminds me of Francis Ford Coppola a little bit.
He looks like my doctor and sounds like my doctor.
Dr. Andy Dick?
And Dr. Andrew Dick. Yeah.
So I looked him up.
His name?
Yeah.
Her doctor, his doctor. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, because Jason went to see Dr. Steven Seagal, and I'm like, I got to one-up that.
I don't know if you can one-up Steven Seagal, but...
Well, with a weirdo.
Those are both awesome. So now I gotta figure out which one I want to go with.
So I looked this guy up. Richard France is this actor's name, and I feel like I did a little bit of Joe Bob deep dive research here. He was actually a pretty well-known playwright, author, film and drama critic in the Pittsburgh area, of course. He was sort of the local NPR film critic and theater critic for a long time in Pittsburgh. But what makes this guy really interesting is that he is one of the foremost authorities on the theater work of Orson Welles.
Oh wow! Yeah, Whoa. I can see that.
He has written 2 books that are very well regarded as the authority on Welles in these particular topics. The Theater of Orson Welles was one, and Orson Welles on Shakespeare was another. He also was featured in the documentary. I believe it was nominated for Best Documentary at the Academy Awards one year, the Battle over Citizen Kane. it was that was a very troubled production. A lot of issues between the studio, RKO Studios, and Orson Welles. But he was featured in that documentary heavily as a Welles authority as well. So I find that fascinating. I was like, God, this guy's probably going to be nobody, right? He's somebody who's done nothing other than Romero work, and yet he's this 90-year-old, still alive, 90 years old, maybe the best living resource and authority for Orson Welles in the world.
That's cool. Wow. He seemed like he portrayed a very well-informed person. So,
I loved his voice. His and his character is so developed, right? And it makes total sense that he's a theater guy, because he probably was like, I've been given this role, and I'm just going to completely, go crazy with it.
The whole movie.
Literally, he's not maybe 5 minutes of camera time in the entire movie, but you remember him fully.
Plus the eye patch too.
Plus the eye patch. He probably insisted on the eye patch, right? I would have to
smart.
think. Yeah.
Smart, because now he's memorable. He knew what he was doing.
Well, I like the fact that he's first of all, he goes off and calls everybody dummies, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
He just shouts dummies, dummies, and then when he
doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. And he keeps talking about remaining logical, but the interviewer is like, well, it doesn't work that way, doctor. It's like, what do you mean it doesn't work that way? It's like, he's trying to tell you how to survive, and you're basically telling him to get fucked.
Yeah, we're not going to eat the zombies, doctor.
Logic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he was on Fox News. So, yeah, and it's like, I like the movie also knows exactly when that, because Jason, you were talking about how basically it's off and running for 80 minutes or so, and then the reality sets in and everybody is bored.
Yeah,
they're kind of arguing. They're kind of getting. They don't really.
We got to talk about that scene, that Roger scene, though, the bravado scene that gets him bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Well, yeah, we got this, man. We got this by the ass.
Yeah, we got this by the ass, man. Wake up, sucker. We're the thieves. Bad guys.
Yeah.
That, I think, is the best scene of suspense in the movie. Because
3 times he almost gets bit or whatever. So it's they decide it's okay, well, we got to move the trucks in front of the doors, then we got to lock the doors, and then we're going to go clear out the mall.
Right.
And so Roger and Peter go out and they're moving these trucks. And by the way, I would hit every zombie that I could, just because you can. Yeah. Why not? Why not?
I thought they did. Obviously, they couldn't do that with the special effects, but they did a pretty effective job of it when they.
Oh yeah, there were a couple. Yeah, there were a couple where they had that really cool low angle shot where somebody would just fly off or whatever, fly off the screen. But and then they added a little ploop sound or whatever.
Right.
But then they start blocking this. The first couple of times it works out perfectly. They block the door. They hop in the other truck. They go back and get another one, and they block the.
And then Roger really starts feeling himself.
Yeah, he starts getting a little cocky.
Yeah, I'm the man.
Don't
get cocky, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first thing he does is he's just taking a little bit too long to hotwire a truck and not paying attention to his surroundings.
Right.
And Flyboy is kind of trying to get his attention. It's dude, you got to hurry. 3 zombies are coming. It's
right.
get figure it out.
He doesn't even close the door.
No.
To the truck.
Yeah, and then he Peter Steven's got to go and get Peter and bring him back, which now it's the whole thing is off the timing, and then. They eventually do get the car, or they do get that truck. They move it into place. Roger's kind of hot dogging it to get back into the truck with Steven or with Peter.
Yep.
And then he realizes, oh, fuck, I left my bag. And it's like, and Peter's like, you got to get straight, man. It's like you're not just playing with your life, you're playing with mine.
That was like a really effective scene. I felt like it was like trying to just set him straight. Like, hey, trooper, you're here with me. This is me and you, not just you. Yeah,
right.
It totally reminded me of those war films where somebody's freaking out. Like, Roger wasn't necessarily freaking out. He was the exact opposite. But it's like, wake up, man.
But
shell shock, dude.
He's being careless.
Because he got like, too big, too whatever. And it was like, slow the fuck down. Yeah.
Yeah, he started off cool.
Got a lot of work to do today.
Right, like he was operating like, he should. And then all of a sudden just, boom.
Yeah. Well, it was too many successes that, it's like now he's sloppy.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it's because, again, he is a little bit too full of himself. He drops the bag. He's got to pick up the bag. Oh, now he's bitten twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
And so now, it's like he is doomed. And it's Peter who's like, I've seen about a half dozen guys get bit, and
they all die. 3 days.
3 days.
Yep. And sure enough, in those 3 days, he devolves until he finally dies and becomes a slack-jawed zombie.
And did you notice how much more of a zombie he was than everybody else? Did anybody else pick up on that? Like, he's like, when he comes out of that blanket and is like just completely wrinkled and decrepit looking, none of the other people all look like that. Like, I don't understand.
I think that's a money thing for one, so they spent the money of
actors
making this guy up, and they do it with Roger later.
I mean, he looks great. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
He looked like a decrepit zombie, but like none of the other people walking around the mall looked like that.
He looks like the early prototype for Bub in Day of the Dead.
Yes!
Oh,
Yeah.
And I think that was probably also like an emotional. It's like, hey, you can, it's like we're gonna really linger on this. We might want him to look as good as possible.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I thought. Like maybe a lot of them don't last 3 days, and that's what you look like after 3 days. Maybe some of these zombies happened after 12 hours, and they didn't look as bad. But he looked like crap. Like
he's also
90.
He's also a zombie that was turned, that died from a bite.
Okay.
And not just somebody who died from something and then was resurrected. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Maybe.
But,
I don't know. I just noticed the difference in like the mall zombies that look like fresh faced. I mean, like some of them
blue paint. They just put blue paint on them, basically.
Completely normal. Just dead.
Yeah.
What were you
going
saying?
Apparently, it was gray paint. Tom Savini did gray paint, but it came out blue on film. He did gray because of the Night of the Living Dead black and white.
Yeah.
He
interesting.
Yeah, they had to shoot. Yeah, they had to shoot everything with the neon or the fluorescent that was available in the mall. They didn't have the time every day to set up the lighting. So it was, so like that was one thing I was going to ask you about. Because Night of the Living Dead in the late 60s, it's like, first of all, it's black and white. You can kind of forgive that it's not, like, they're not, like, all eaten up like you see in, like, Day of the Dead in particular. But, but I was going to ask you how you kind of, what you thought of how these guys were made up, because I kind of had my own take that I was thinking about, like, while I was watching it, because it's like, they don't look like the zombies that we would expect, but but I was just kind of wanting to get aside from like the realistic, like, Savini was wanting to kind of match the black and white feel or the grayish kind of necrotic flesh. But yeah, I was just kind of wanting to think, like, kind of pick your brain about what you thought of.
I think it was, like Chuck said, a money standpoint. You've got so many extras. You've got to flip these people out, hundreds of extras real quick. Let's slap some cheap face paint on them. We have a budget of this much to do our featured players. I mean, I agree with Chuck on that point. Are they the best looking zombies? Absolutely not.
No.
But I mean,
but for the time, 1978, and doing all the work that they had to do every day.
Like you watch it now and you can see like, okay, this zombie's got face paint on his face, but they missed his neck and they missed the back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think of it kind of like, in a way, it takes away their, like, I'm not scared of the zombies of this movie, mostly because I just think of these people as like ghouls more so than zombies. And the dread that I feel watching this movie is something else. It's the impact on the so like when I was watching it yesterday, I was thinking, it's like, yeah, I don't care that these are just, you know, people walking around and look blue. You know, it's like they're not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is how society works when something like this happens. You know, it's like, these are just ghouls. These are just creatures who, you know, it's like,
you're the minority now. Is one of the biggest things.
Right.
Yeah.
You can say that, but at the same time, like, what I noticed was, like, do you remember, like, the scene where Frian was trying to lock the door and the nuns habit got, like, stuck in the door or whatever? And, like, you say how, like, people, like, remember, like, sort of, like, past actions or whatever. The nun wasn't aggressive.
She was very peaceful.
Like, she was just, like, trying to get out or whatever. So like so then Fran like opened the door a little bit and let her get her outfit out or whatever, and she kind of walked away, and then was just like, so it's like, yeah, they're ghouls, but there's a humanity to them too, because obviously that nun remembered that, like,
well, she was
a kind of person that's not, you know what I mean, like, I'm sure if brains presented themselves, she would do what she was going to do.
Yeah, she was going to take
part.
Had that
kind of, like, she wasn't acting like the rest of them were. And, like,
she was.
Or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to, like, delve into that, but, like, just, like, past, like, how you acted as a.
Well, they definitely make because, like, also, like, when she gets let go, she kind of turns back at Fran almost to say thank you.
Yeah.
I noticed that, too. It's like, oh, well, and then she didn't even try to.
Remembering, like, past, like, how it used to be, like, even if they're not them anymore, like, there's, like, a certain, like, thing, you know.
Yeah,
I know that Romero didn't give the many of the zombies much direction. He was kind of like, make it your own. Everybody, make it your own. Like, bring your own thing to each one of these zombies. Which is I think a really good approach, because obviously you don't want to micromanage that down to that level, but also it allows you to have individuals bring an ounce of humanity to each zombie. Yeah, it works really well. I also think regarding the look of the zombies, again, I think we're conditioned now that zombies should look a certain way, right? Or the ghouls, that should look a certain way, and then when this movie was made, it was really all there was. This is defined the early idea of what a zombie would look like, and of course it's going to evolve, and special effects and makeup effects are going to evolve, but it's still groundbreaking and a landmark achievement in defining the building blocks, I guess, of what this genre was going to be or become.
Yeah, and I mean, there are definitely some of the featured zombies get some extra stuff on them. Like the one that comes in after Ken Foray while he's drinking his hot cocoa or coffee or whatever. It's like that one's got like half a face.
Severe. Yeah.
And again, I agree that the zombies themselves aren't necessarily scary, but two things that scare me. The idea of becoming one scares me, right? And that's a pretty common theme in these movies is, as even Roger, puts it, he's just like, I'm going to try and fight it. I love that. I love when he's like, I'm going to try and fight it. I'm going to try and fight it. He keeps saying it. But he wants to make it clear, if I don't win that battle, you take me out, and that's kind of like the first time I think that concept in these movies was kind of presented, because that's pretty common trope now in zombie films. But that always scares me. What is it like to transition into that? Are you aware? Are you conscious? And then the horde, the horde is what's scary, right? It's not the individual zombies. It's the mass of zombies that is scary. So I always like the stuff in Dawn where they're trying to move the horde, right? They're distracting them. They're trying to get them to come up on a different floor so that they can maneuver. Like, I love all that, the tactical aspect of surviving, this strange and weird thing, where they're dumb. They're
like a hive mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
We should be able to strategize,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only when they try to do a little bit more, or they get a little bit cocky, or a little bit, where things start to go wrong. Yeah.
How many guns does Roger lose in this film?
Right?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that the one guy keeps carrying the one gun around until he gets another.
Later.
Until later, he's like, oh.
Well, this one's better. This one's better.
No, I mean, there's more than, like, this is one of those movies where the monster isn't really the scary thing. It's like, you want to see the cool effects of, like, how they dispatch the monster, but that's not, like, a good zombie movie should also be dealing with how the survivors are dealing with it more than anything.
Yeah.
Right.
It shouldn't just be how many zombies can we, throw
That's
at
why I
the
always
screen.
cracked up at the Walking Dead detractors that were like, there's not enough zombies. I'm like, well, what would this show be
Right.
if it was just a bunch of zombies overtaking everything?
Walking around with no dialogue, like,
Yeah.
Well, I would give them goofy dialogue at that point.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Tom, how's it going? Oh.
My jaw's falling off, Rick. I can't
He
bite.
said, he always found neighbors to be the scariest thing. Your neighbors next door.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, well, it's like, how many people do you know that aren't treating anything that's very serious in the real world, like in real life, like it's nothing? It's like...
The answer is too many, Geoff.
Had a block party yesterday.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Good job.
That's how your neighbors treat you. Yeah.
Props to
in
you.
her front yard, and she had to tell them to go away because, also it's not Monday yet, so.
well, that's going to make all the difference.
But also, just like you're not respecting anything,
Right.
Well, yeah,
that's how your neighbors treat you. Like, yeah.
One of our neighbors let their kid come over to our house and knock on the door yesterday, and he knocked for like 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm not going to go. I don't even want to go tell this kid he shouldn't be doing this.
I want my
like
$2.
his parents should.
Yeah.
But, like, Jesus.
Have some respect, yo.
So, Geoff, you touched on this earlier about when the boredom sets in, right?
Yes.
That's kind of when the movie, you get the scene after Trooper, after Roger dies. You get a little bit of them, lapsing into routine, right?
Right.
And it's really kind of where the movie also sort of catches its breath.
Before it goes to all out chaos.
And
yeah.
And it is another, I think, aspect of this movie that scares me is that malaise that starts to set in these characters, and it's so perfectly, beautifully captured by Romero after the dinner scene where so Stephen proposes to Francine, and she doesn't really want anything to do with it. She's like, it wouldn't be real, and it's such a sad moment because Stephen is trying to create or keep some semblance of normalcy, and Francine, I think, has at that moment given up in a lot of ways, right? And isn't interested in trying to keep, I don't know, to
keep society alive.
Keep society alive, if you will. So that scene in itself is sad, but then you have my favorite shot of the movie, where the camera is on Stephen, and it's the pull-out shot of Stephen, and he's looking off camera, and it's just this absolutely depressed and resigned look on his face, and it pulls out, he's in bed, and Fran is next to him in bed. She's topless, and she's looking away from him. And it's not really apparent if they made love or if they tried to make love. It's just this perfectly painted picture of despair.
Yeah.
And it is the single one moment in this movie that it brings tears to my eyes when I see it. It's just, it's perfection.
Yeah, and this whole movie, and I think Geoff had mentioned before, or maybe it was Chuck, that we follow Fran for most of it because she's the one that starts it, and she's the one that we're most worried about. She's pregnant, and she's not as experienced as the others. She doesn't know how to fly a helicopter. She doesn't know how to shoot a gun, so we're worried about her, whatever.
She's not exactly
that moment
useful.
right there is where you worry about Flyboy more. Like, that's where you see his life and what he's feeling. Like, you're concerned about Fran completely, but then in that moment, you feel for him. And
because it's not long after that that Fran not only knows how to shoot, but she also knows how to fly the helicopter.
And
so she's actually kind of supplanting it.
Like, you see, like, there's a reason. It's
I'm glad.
Sad moment. For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave Flyboy that moment because 80% of the movie, I think he's an idiot and I hate him.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You're annoyed with him most of the time. You're worrying about the other guys, the guys that have the level heads, or the guys that are hurt already. You're worried about, them surviving, and they're not going to. You're worried about Fran. She's pregnant, whatever. This is literally the only moment where I worried about Steven. Like, it's the only moment where I was like, oh, I get you as a person. This sucks for you.
His bullets were missing.
Other than that, he's shooting legs, he's sucking ass.
Nailed it.
Not contributing at all. He sucks. But in that moment, you really feel for him. And it's really tragic.
Yeah. But then pies get thrown in the face of the zombies. Yes. And that brought a tear to my eye. I'm like, this is amazing.
It was a throw of pie into my face, really. It's like, this pie's for you, audience.
Yeah.
And this one. And this one.
That's probably not that far off, Chuck.
No, I'm pretty sure that, Yep.
So one of the things that I started thinking about, because basically the chaos comes at this point. It's like there are a couple of these bikers who are like scouting the mall, and they've realized that the trucks are in front of the door. There's this helicopter on the roof, and it seems to be working, and people are using it. Oh, somebody's in there, so we should go in there and take their shit.
Well, it was exactly what they foretold earlier in the movie. Like, somebody's going to get wise when they see that helicopter. Yeah, before they started barricading. Yeah.
Right. So, and at one point earlier on in the movie, Peter was talking about how they were the bad guys. So, while they were still basically our protagonists and heroes, I mean, it's like they're they were taking things. They were basically scavenging and kind of taking things, and basically had guns and the know-how to take whatever they wanted.
That's one of my favorite lines in the movie when he says, "Wake up, sucker! We're thieves and we're bad guys."
Right. Basically. But then, like, when when the bikers come, I mean, it's basically just another group of bad guys, but they're worse. And so it's like one of the reads that I was kind of picking up in the movie was that, it's like when civilization needs to be built or rebuilt, or some sort of semblance of like a life needs to happen where there isn't really any kind of organization, it's kind of done by the bad guys who eventually settle into being better people. Right. And sometimes the survivalists are going to be the people who have the fewest morals.
Right. Well, I think in just zombie movies in general, or The Walking Dead or whatever, the best ones introduce other people as the main enemy.
Yeah.
Like, the zombies aren't the enemy. They don't have brains. You can outwit them. If you were good at football, you could knock every one of these zombies over if you wanted to. But the other people are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it's totally proved out.
Yeah, and I mean, like, here's the situation where you have a whole bunch of bikers who can just kind of hang out in the bunker and, you know, whoop it up and just get drunk and stupid and idiotic, and they're not dying. You know, it's like...
And if they are, they don't care. They don't care if they lose numbers.
Right. It's like they're going to go in and, like, basically, they're like go in and do a smash and grab at the mall, and they're not really affected by the zombies until Steven and Peter are shooting them.
Right.
You know,
stupid Steven.
It was
ruined
such
the whole
a dumb.
damn
It was
thing.
so stupid. Yeah. I mean, lowering the gates makes sense, right? Limit their access to things and the damage they can do and the amount of stuff that they'll steal. But if you just hold up in your little apartment and let your fake wall do what it was intended to do, you'd be fine. But I think Steven, it's a couple different things. He's sort of territorial at this point. In some ways, he's still the one who's retained the most humanity. I know, or at least or has tried to retain the most sense of normalcy, and he's also grown as a character in the sense that he's more confident, and he's overconfident. Now he's pulling a trooper, right?
Right.
And he overextends his ability and causes his own death and potentially the death of his wife and child. Really, if you think about it, he endangers his family by his actions. Yeah.
I thought it was super interesting too, and one of the cool things about that is when he reacts, they're taking the money, which has no value anymore, right? And he himself becomes a zombie, remembering the way that things used to be, right? Like things that don't matter anymore, he's still attached to, It's like, and that's what gets him killed.
Yep, absolutely.
Because like that's one of those things that like when he becomes he gets shot and then the zombies attack him and then he becomes a zombie a few hours later, and I always like how he's like walking with that one foot all fucked. Like, how do you do that?
He has a pretty good verbal Kent limp. Yeah.
He turns into a great zombie. He's one of my favorite zombies in the movie. Yep.
Yeah, and then of course he's got like the little gun dangling off his finger. I always like that too. And like he's like, "Hey guys, come this way," and like basically leads everybody down the hallway, and then busts down the fake wall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which by the way, that fake wall was really shitty.
Yeah.
It was like a piece of cardboard.
Yeah, but hey, it looked good. It's just
I thought they were going to do like drywall or something, but
well,
Jesus
come on
Christ.
now. They're at a mall. You can only get so much.
That mall had everything, Geoff.
The only reason they had that wall was to fool people, not to keep people out.
Yeah, it was
fair
like,
enough,
hey, if we look, like, who's going to go down the wall and knock on every inch?
Oh, fake wall!
Boom, go!
Still though, wouldn't you barricade it? Wouldn't you at least like the door, the actual door that's there? It wasn't even closed. It was ludicrous.
A Peter fail. Poor Peter.
Barricade the damn thing.
Well, so
you're not using it.
So this gets to the conclusion where basically, it's like now it's just Peter is kind of content with just like, I'll hold off as many as I can and then take myself out, and she takes off with the helicopter. But then he decides, like a fucking badass,
I love
that he's not going to go out. Yeah. The music is even awesome.
No.
Yes.
The music is so much better in the Argento cut. It's like this badass goblin rock music when he makes that choice. In Romero's version,
it's like the great American hero.
It's like the greatest American hero. Yeah, it's so fucking stupid.
I think it's just fun. Well, it's the perfect music to throw zombies around too, man.
The cue in the Argento cut is so much better. But
yeah, I love that scene when he's sitting there with the gun to his head, like, I can't go on. It doesn't matter where we go from here. It's just going to be the same thing.
Right.
But I don't know what he decides. I'm interested if it's an internal struggle, like he's like, no, I have to protect the woman, or he decides he wants to live. It's pretty interesting not knowing why
he wants to live. Yeah, but you're right. It is interesting. You know, what made him make that choice? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not going to go out like some punk bitch.
Nope.
I think that's part of it too. Is maybe he makes a realization that he's going to become one of those things, right?
Right.
Well, not if he's really good at shooting himself in the head. Well,
That's true. I mean, if he destroys the brain, yeah.
But he so he does end up catching up and like flying off with Fran, and you get the super optimistic line of how much fuel do we have?
Not much.
Not much.
and then it ends with all right.
All right. Good enough for me. But no, so the original end of the movie was meant to be like he does kill himself, and Fran decides to jump into the propeller like the zombie who died at the gas station. And then and then basically the credits were going to play over the propeller, and before the credits ended, the propeller was going to stop, meaning they weren't going to make it anywhere anyway.
Mm.
So, but they decided during the movie, it's like, we'll at least save a couple of these people.
Yeah.
So.
Their story never gets picked up anywhere in any later films or anything, right? So that's their end.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that anybody carries through to any of the sequels.
No.
Do they?
They don't. Not that I'm aware of.
Because, like, none of these people are in... I mean, there's a lot of reference with Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Like, they keep calling the one guy Flyboy because he can fly the helicopter.
Yeah, sure.
Joseph Pilato did a cameo in the...
That's right.
The dock officers, yeah.
Yeah, Polito is in the...
maybe he did make it. Really?
Yeah, Polito is in the Argento cut, yeah.
True. And is he a stark raving lunatic?
So you could definitely loosely make the assumption that it's the same character. Yeah.
They made it all the way to Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were twins, so you never know.
Yeah.
What does everyone think of the franchise as a whole, and specifically the last three films? Has everyone seen? I'm sure Blake. I'm sure you've seen them all.
Look at that!
And I see your face.
It's a lot like Star Wars. The original three are definitely the best.
Yeah.
What's everybody's feeling on Land of the Dead? I kind of like Land of the Dead. Ooh, Amber doesn't.
It was a movie I looked so forward to at the theater. And then when I went to see it at theaters, it was like,
maybe if I haven't seen the first
still
three,
own it.
That's the thing that I want to point out, and maybe that's what Star Wars fans say too. Yeah. I don't know, but if I hadn't seen the first three, maybe I wouldn't have been disappointed. Is what you don't know, because I can't know that going in, because I obviously had seen the earlier, but I was grossly disappointed.
Well, Land of the Dead was one that he had conceptualized from a very early stage. He wanted the fourth movie to be about ignoring the problem, right? We've come to a point in this pandemic, where we're trying
reopen it. Let it rip.
We're reopening, and
open the floodgates,
and we'll ignore the problem. We'll just barricade it, right? Which I think is an interesting idea. I think with a lot of filmmakers, Romero is one of those ones who kind of, when he's given money to make a movie, he makes a lesser movie. John Carpenter is the same. I think some artists work well under financial work better under financial restraint, and I think Romero is one of them. I think you have to kind of think on your feet. You have to you have to be creative on the day, and you don't kind of have the opportunity to make mistakes, or you turn happy accidents into memorable moments. So I think that's part of what Land of the Dead, for me, it felt too glossy. It felt a little too Hollywood.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, sure, maybe that's the case. But then Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead are both very low budget and not very good at all.
Oh God,
yeah.
Diary of the Dead is.
Yeah, your whole. Thought.
Diary of the Dead is better than Survival of the Dead, if you can believe it.
Oh, I can't believe that. Diary. You know what pisses me off about Diary of the Dead is that
so many things.
Well, yeah, but it's the fucking narration. It's like this is supposed to be found footage. It's not, and then to explain it away is like, I narrated this and added music to make you scared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck
Yeah,
you,
bad.
bitch.
Yeah.
I hate this movie so much.
Blair Witch Project didn't do that shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty bad.
yeah, it's I've only seen bits and pieces of what's the other one?
Survival of
Survival
the
of
Dead.
Dead. Yeah, I've only seen a little bit of that. AMC plays that every fucking October though.
Why?
Because it's probably cheap to play because
sure.
nobody cares about it.
Yeah. It's definitely a movie you find on Tubi kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, yeah. No, yeah, no, for me, like this one is like number one. Night of the Living Dead's a distant second, and Day of the Dead's a distant third. But that's only because I don't like any of the characters in Day of the Dead at all. And it's like all of them could die and I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But
that
then,
was over the top and the campiness, but I think it would be Dawn of the Dead for me, then Day of the Dead, then Night. But I mean, first time I saw Day of the Dead, I was like, oh, this is bad.
Did you see it before you saw Dawn of the Dead? Okay.
And then I watched it again and again. It just, it became one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, and as far as like the other one, I guess like just, Land of the Dead is, okay. I guess it's a fine, I guess it's fine as a continuation of what's going on in Day of the Dead to a certain, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Land of the Dead was disappointing, but like I kind of see what they were trying for, but it just wasn't.
Yeah. I didn't pay much attention to the later ones, so I don't have much of an opinion.
Sorry, my I crashed again. Did we talk at all about Day of the Dead?
Well, we briefly kind of glazed over like the fact that Day of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead were distant second and third because we didn't care as much about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Day of the Dead, I'm not. Is a distant
But Blake
third.
said that the more he watched it, the more he felt
It's
that was what better than Night of the Living Dead because. Sorry.
I like it a lot. In fact, I might like it more than Dawn because I think it has a more consistent tone, and
you're into that bleak shit,
and it's really scary.
Oh,
yeah, it honestly, in many ways, it also created its own genre of horror. I call it bunker horror. Where you're very much. Dawn is a little bit that way too, but they had an escape. So you don't feel as restricted.
Yeah, they could go and do the makeup and hair and whatever.
Right.
Or
they can still get on a helicopter, right, and go.
Well, but also they could have
Day of the Dead, they are constricted to this place. They cannot move, and there's also this authoritarian control over the scientists, right? It is very much a type of horror film that has been replicated. The Divide is probably the most recent one I can think of. If you haven't seen The Divide, I highly recommend it. It's very bunker horror, pandemic horror, if you will. But anyway, I am a huge fan of Day of the Dead.
Romero could pick settings. He really could.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so what's the final word people have for Dawn of the Dead?
Highly recommend it.
Yes.
I
yes.
mean,
I mean, it's a classic.
It is a classic.
Well, it's epic and it's timely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny where
very timely.
Yeah.
I am a little curious if you haven't seen the movie before, like, would you find it boring or would you understand what it's going for? But I don't really care. Those people would be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I'm curious about, like, my kids when they're old enough to watch it. I'm curious to see what their reaction is. Like, will they find it scary? Like,
Yeah, kids nowadays laugh at The Exorcist.
Right. Like, will they be desensitized?
Yeah.
Like, I'm terrified. It's my top scary movie.
Yeah.
Not to get off topic from Dawn of the Dead, but, like, there are certain things that just carry weight no matter how old they are. And I'm really curious, like, not that I'm going to push it too soon because our kids are still too young, but, like, when they finally watch this, I'm curious to see their reaction. I'm curious to see if it carries the weight that it did in 1978 or whenever we watched.
I think it's interesting. That's an interesting thing. Is what I mentioned it earlier. Is what do horror fans who haven't seen this movie think of it, right? And I think that the gore alone holds up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the intestine scenes and all of that. Oh, did we talk about the blood pressure guy?
My
no,
God.
it's my
Why
last.
are you so obsessed with that machine? Like,
why? Why did he go back to the machine? It's so stupid.
But there is a explanation from George Romero.
Is
all
there?
right. Well, hold on.
I'd love to
Hold
hear
that.
it. That was ridiculous to me.
Hold that. But I think the gore alone still makes me very squeamish, and I don't get squeamish about gore usually, but there is stuff in this movie that just grosses me the fuck out.
You're a Cronenberg fan, though, aren't you?
I know. This shit is on the level. Like, it is really effective gore, and then I think there are themes into adulthood. That stuff that I didn't really understand as a kid. That really, really disturbs me now when I watch it. It at least makes me thoughtful about it. And of course, living this sort of weird time and place we're in with COVID, it's very easy to allow those themes to translate into your own life. And it's a little disconcerting how well they do. Yeah.
Well, and I watched it in a way I've never watched before. Is what I would say. Like, today, watching it was a totally different experience than watching it 5 years ago. Like, the experience was different. I was associating things that it's weird how well it translates.
We don't die.
Well, we
straight up, we're dead.
One thing I wondered about while watching this, and wouldn't fly necessarily in movies these days, and maybe it was more appropriate back then, but Francine drinking and smoking the entire movie while she's pregnant.
I was like, you know the baby.
But I talked myself into thinking it was another way she was resigning herself, that there was no world left for her baby.
Right. Like,
she'd be better off not having one, but I don't know if that was...
Yeah.
Well, they asked her at one point, it's like, do you want to...
I think they have a lot of, like, the knowledge that they have now. Like, I don't really know that they knew that smoking while pregnant was bad in 1978.
I'm pretty sure they did. My mom told me that she didn't drink at all because they knew they weren't supposed to.
Well, two things there.
Some
people did, yeah. Some people still do.
Two things there.
That's true, but I don't think the mom really understood, or I think she probably wouldn't have. I don't know.
When Peter broaches the topic...
Maybe it's why I'm so short. I don't know.
When Peter broaches the option of terminating the pregnancy, he doesn't bring it up with Francine. He brings it up with Stephen. And also, how does he know how to do that? Because he says he knows how.
Right,
Peter knows how to do everything. You didn't pick that up in this movie?
Right.
He makes walls out of nothing.
But I truly think that Francine has her best moment in the movie right after that. When she kind of snaps out of it a little bit, she's been sort of a liability to this point, but she's like, wait a minute, I need to be involved in every decision. somebody needs to learn to fly that helicopter. I want to learn how to fly it.
And you never leave me without a gun again.
Never leave me without a gun again. Like she takes charge of her own agency, and honestly, like it's for the better of the group.
Yeah.
But I don't know that an abortion is ever brought up again, is it? I can't remember that it is.
That was the only scene.
And so I do agree, I think, to some point that her drinking and smoking is probably, well, what's the point? Maybe there isn't a lot that isn't really overtly played out, but yeah, I think she does start to fall into that malaise, and she's like, well, what is the point? She's killing the pain at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And she gives up on the TV giving them any information. She's like, don't turn that thing on. They haven't given us anything in 3 days.
Exactly.
Like, it's over, dude.
Yeah.
Which is weird that she's the one that escapes.
Yeah. That scene was rough. Yeah.
So so about the guy with the blood pressure. Yeah, first of all, I love the fact that he's dressed as a bandito. That's just amazing.
Sure.
But second, I guess Romero was asked. It's like, well, why was that guy doing that? Like, what was the point in that? He's like, because we could.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it does give you the great shot of the arm ripped off, in the machine, and then of course they even cut back to the machine where it says
reading
over,
zeros,
blood pressure is over or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's so goofy, and of all the goofy things that the Argento cut doesn't take out, it's that he doesn't take that out or the pie fight. He does cut it differently, so it's less apparent that that he comes back to the machine, right? Because that's the part really that is just so ludicrous. It's in the middle of chaos. He's like, no, I still got to get my reading. It's like, why?
And then you have the terrible music at the very end when they're showing the zombies walking around, the game show music.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hated it.
I scream. I don't get it.
Fine.
Again,
it's fine.
Sorry,
I'm gonna. It's fine. It's fine. All of it's fine.
I'm not saying I don't love this movie. I love this movie. The soundtrack really confused the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I don't get it. And I get, like, at some points, like, it's supposed to be lighthearted. Like, the guy doesn't understand what's happening when the escalator moves. And go, ooh, And, like, at some point, like, the soundtrack has to make sense. And it really didn't.
Real quick, before we wrap things up, what's people's general feelings on the 2004, the Zack Snyder one?
Love it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best horror remakes ever.
I'm for it. I like it quite a bit.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen it more recently than Dawn, I think.
If for nothing else, that opening, the opening of that movie, where like everything from there's some weird stuff happening to, oh my God, fucking chaos, everything's exploding.
He is on fire.
Yeah. So that's
just the sense of urgency was amped up a bit, and the fact that they moved faster. They weren't stagnant. You couldn't just run past them and be okay. Like the sense of urgency amped up a bit, and that just escalated the entire movie.
Yeah, that was a criticism. Was definitely the fast moving zombies.
Yeah,
in the remake.
I liked it, but I'm
okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
Nothing says they have to be slow or fast.
Yeah, I mean, they're humans. They can.
I think the movie explored some themes that the original didn't as well. You get to really spend a lot more time with them in the mall and kind of settling into normalcy. Obviously, they play out the pregnancy. You have also sort of characters within their group who are more overtly dangerous, right? Or lazy or not willing to do their part, right? You have a broader, I guess, range of personality, maybe to caricature it to some degree, but also it creates a more internal group conflict, which I think is really, really effective in that setting.
Well, it helps when there's more characters too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there were more than 4, so it definitely lended a dynamic.
I would be curious. I think probably more than anything, from the character dynamic, that movie probably influenced Kirkman quite a bit in his writing of Walking Dead. Probably Day as well. Day has a lot of that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we did it, guys. I think we did it.
We did it.
So, Amber, Blake. Amber, first of all, thanks for coming back.
Hey, yeah, no problem.
And Blake, thanks for joining us. We're going to have you guys on for another flick too.
Anytime.
Anything horror, this guy's gonna be on your screen for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I think one of the things I wouldn't mind like exploring more of like the Night of the Dead remake or something like that. That would be a fun one. That'd be a fun one to talk about at some point too. But we'll definitely have to keep that keep you in the loop.
More is better, guys. Come on.
Jason, where are things found?
FilmSeizure.com is where all the things are found.
Yeah.
You can find our episodes, our writing, our Geoff's Monster Mondays, Geoff's 00 Saturdays are all on the website at FilmSeizure.com. You can also see and find links to your favorite audio channels such as YouTube and Spotify and SoundCloud from the website. So please do check it out. But if you just need your quick fix and you don't know where to go, FilmSeizure.com is the best bet.
All right. So, again, thank you to the Browns for joining us.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, guys.
Some zombies. And, so until next week when we are talking about Gremlins 2, the new batch, I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore. Go ahead, Jason, I think.
And Blake and Amber, and then I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.